All right. So some housekeeping. Michelle was awesome and created a YouTube channel. So in case you do miss, and we can send these out to the all SaaS Alerts partners. There's a YouTube channel available now with the recordings, and you can put it in chat, Michelle, or show it. I don't know.
I'll put it in the chat for you guys.
Okay, perfect. And then the other thing is, we mentioned this last time, and I think you'll put it in chat, is the upcoming webinar, right, Michelle?
Right, and I do have that ready to go.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
And if you were on last week, I'll just mention this again, being iterative, but if you weren't, this is I would not miss this. If you can't personally attend, certainly watch the recording or send somebody from your team. Bo Bullock from Black Hills is going to do this. They are considered one of the best offensive pen testing groups in the country. And he ran the cloud security workshop last year at Right a Boom. It was sold out in no time. This year's is sold out in no time as well with John Strand and John Hammond. But Bo is phenomenal when it comes to cloud security.
Yeah.
So,
and Andrew, it was a great topic because, Michelle can tell you we're already getting a lot of people registering for this webinar. So,
oh, good. And what I'd love to do is follow it up with, by the way, I already got a confirmation from Tracy Seitz at who runs sales and marketing for Breach Secure Now. Tracy ran sales and marketing for a pretty big MSP out in Colorado for many years. So we're going to do some go to market with her on one. And then ideally we do a selling and packaging and pricing, Jim, with like Gary and Ryan Eichler, who were on the cyber call this past week. So be doing some more of good, fun stuff like that, as well as value add for the community. So Jim, I figured we'd started off with you because you and I were talking earlier this week and you were so thrilled with how stale account cleanup is going. But I wanted to have you revisit that topic and just, I think you had some, statements and questions really, right?
yeah. So for those that don't know, we introduced stale account cleanup functionality. It was back, I don't know, probably 6 weeks ago or so, beginning of October, end of September, or something like that. And we're really excited because it completely automates the process of getting rid of those, pesky, stale accounts that, basically hang over and create unneeded, unwanted security threats, right? And we're excited about it, and we introduced it to a handful of folks. We released it to everybody. A handful of folks started using it and really deleting a lot of accounts, and we started to make some really good progress on a percentage basis on those accounts. And then end of the day, like when I go back and I look now at the data, while initially we did a really great job with a handful of MSPs cleaning up those accounts, guest user accounts, and Microsoft specifically we're talking about here, we're back up to where we were. Right. Like, so we haven't made the progress that we want. So just to give everyone an idea, we have on the platform now about 512,000 billed users on the platform, billed accounts, and we have nearly as many guest user accounts. So for every billable user, Andrew, we have a guest user account. And those ratios are way off, right? So you and I were talking, and I'm like, I need to understand like why people aren't using the tool, right? To do more of the cleanup. And so we came up with an idea to basically have a poll in this call. So I'm really curious to know like how people feel about this.
Yeah. And I think Michelle has that handy, so we'll get that up. And I'll play some Jeopardy music, Michelle, while that comes. Oh, there it is.
There it is. Yeah. So why haven't you removed stale accounts? So
So
I
your
don't
poll
think-
doesn't have a fourth option, which is, I don't understand how it impacts the operation. So that would be another way is, why is this a big deal? For
well,
you, I understand it.
I don't think
ahead.
it's an issue. Would that be number one?
All right, there you go. There you have it.
Okay. Option 5, I didn't know about it. Okay. Okay, so if everyone can just take that, we'd love to be able to.
Yeah.
Ben's always a teacher's pet. He's always out in front of this stuff, leveraging the features that we have in the platform.
What I'd love to know, Jim, from Ben, if you wouldn't mind just chiming in. Ben, did you see it as an issue? Like, let's pretend stale account cleanup never, came out. Was it a concern of yours?
I guess I'm a little OCD. It's just, I don't like seeing all those accounts in there that just pollute the Azure AD. And as far as a security risk, I mean, the ones that really concern me, the ones that were never signed into, they're never needed. So I always figured, less holes out there, the better. So, I mean, advocate of making sure everything's tidy.
Are you the same way with service accounts too? Like, kind of always inspecting those as well?
I try to be. What really bugs me is like enterprise applications. Sometimes, you see those in there and you're going, what access does this have? And it's like, oh, okay, well, how long has this been here? No one's used this in years.
Mhm.
Fair, very
Yeah.
fair.
So it looks like Andy's got a question, Andrew.
Let's go, Andy. Andy's
All right, so
always comments.
the question revolves around, is this also a guest account formed when we share a document from Microsoft 365 anonymously and without an expiration date? And will GDAP help rectify that issue? Or is there a best practice document that we could begin to educate our customers on why this is a bad thing?
Okay, I'll let Chip answer those questions.
Yeah, so Andy, no, guest accounts are not created with a completely anonymous share that's shared via either SharePoint or OneDrive. These accounts are specifically created, for instance, if I were to share a document with you and you're outside my domain and I share it to your email account specifically. The guest account user is what we call the user SPO anon. You guys may have seen that pop up in SaaS Alerts logs, SPO:anonymous. That's the universal user that Microsoft uses for those anonymous shares. There are lots of best practices documents both by Microsoft and I'm going to hazard a guess dozens of articles out there in the general Microsoft space and the security space about making sure that both anonymous files are shared as little as possible. I mean, the best practice is to never use anonymous file sharing at all.
Yeah.
And to regularly go back and clean up the guest accounts that are created for specific shares. Because what happens is I share that file with you thinking, we're working on something together and I forget about it. That's it. It's done. It's sitting out there. The account's created. You never log into it again. And you just have an account that isn't that has access to resources and is a forgotten potential threat vector that sits in the environment.
Absolutely. So the question I'm getting at then is, I believe this is a lack of education, not only on our part, but on our customers' part. And would it not make sense to create a campaign around, if we assess your environment for you, you may find that you have hundreds of shares that are out there that are potential threat vectors that you're not aware of because you don't have the policies in place to restrict or a duration time frame on these shared to other users. I think that's a great marketing opportunity to talk to people about security in the cloud.
100%, you're nailing it.
Yeah, we agree. I mean, that's why we created the tool.
Help us with that collateral. Help us with the messaging. let's talk about it. Because most of us are busy running a company, and you have said, hey, this is an issue that costs, I assume costs SaaS Alerts money. And if
Yes.
we are able to address this and bring customers in and make them aware, hey, you've got threat vectors here, and here's how we can make a difference for you. That's exactly what I'm interested in doing.
Yeah. So we actually, it's in the SaaS report that we release
Yeah.
every year, and we push. It's we now at, I don't know, 3 or 4 different newsletters we put out. We put documentation out on this. So help us understand exactly what else you guys need to help push this educational piece into your customer base.
So from my perspective, I'm now aware, and maybe give us a top 10 messaging items for to prospect and customers. Because if I send this report and say, look, you're sharing anonymously, which is really not recommended, and it has no expiration date, and when I say they're sharing it anonymously, they're sending it to a specific email address, but they're not properly configuring this. There should be a policy that we can implement that will time out shares outside the organization.
Andy, can I throw something out there to you?
Sure.
And go really like layman's terms, like to the end customer. And I'd like to show you something. So the analogy would be like, for an end customer is, hey, how many doors are in your house, right? And they go, well, we have a front door and we have a back door. And I go, and like, we have 4 windows. Like, what are all the ways somebody could get into your home?
Mm-hmm.
And I say, okay, well, what if I told you I just created 20 more doors for somebody to potentially walk into your home? And I'm not saying that's the marketing, but do you think it's to that degree that we go to end user facing thought process?
My perception is we need to connect it back to making key duplicates to your front door or key duplicates to your car, right? That and that secondly, why is this bad? Because they're just working in an environment where they think they're doing the right thing. I'm sharing a document out to a partner or customer that needs it, and when it's done, it needs to go away. We're not. They haven't done an audit that says, hey, what are these unexpired shares doing? That go on forever. Yeah. So there's a nuance to that I don't know how to properly communicate.
So how about this? And can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
And Jim, okay to get off track?
Yeah, please.
Because this goes into go to market, and I think Andy's bringing up a good point on enablement, which Michelle's awesome at. But Andy, it's almost like I have a home. Here's what it looks like. Now, I hired a cleaning person, and I give them a key. But what happens if I also have a landscaper, and I didn't realize the landscaper gave it to the pool person gave it. Now, all of a sudden, I thought only 2 people had a key to my place, and actually 15 people have a key to my place. Is that the kind of where you're headed?
I'm kind of thinking it's almost like we take this house and we put it in the cloud, and the cloud's, labeled Microsoft. And we begin to say, each time you share out a document, you're giving a key away.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
And how often do you have to, or you can, I don't even think we should go a key, because it's so last year, if I want to say it that way. The code that you put on your door to enter your house now, most people have these Bluetooth enabled locks. It's like sharing the same code over and over again, and it doesn't expire. Would you do that today? Because I think that's a real connection method, because the key is how I would relate to it. But all of my family, including me, now have these digital locks, and we are aware about how we share out that code. If you're an Airbnb owner, or then you're constantly changing that. That same thing needs to occur. Maybe we relate it to an industry like that.
Tim put something out there in the chat about a partner enablement section of our website. So how many of you are aware that we provide you with a free Zomentum license when you're a partner of SaaS Alerts? Okay.
And Jim, does everybody know what a Zomentum license is?
Yeah, I know. Tim, are you aware?
I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not.
So,
and I guess one concern is it and it probably is fine. Is it easy enough to pull that out and use it for the marketing CRM that I'm using, because I've already got my whole marketing system in place, and adding Zomentum in wouldn't really be useful to me as another CRM marketing?
Yeah, you don't have to use it as a CRM. You can use it full functionality however you want. But at the core, the reason we provide it to folks is because we didn't want to have to create an entire partner enablement, essentially, repository on our website. We thought it would be easier for just give everyone a Zomentum license. You can go in there. That's where we keep everything. And they make it super easy to essentially take your logo and then slide it onto our documentation and make it your own. And then
Great,
you can email it out from there.
great.
So everything we have around partner enablement is there. And that's why we get, it's worth $99 a month to the average MSP if you were to go out and buy this from Zomentum. But we give it to you for free because of the value around the partner enablement piece. So hopefully that answers that question.
Thank you.
Yeah. And if you haven't taken advantage of your free Zomentum license, then please reach out to your account manager and we can make sure that you get your license.
Okay.
And then you'll go in there and you'll see everything. So cool. Okay. And
However,
and
Jim,
by the way,
I think you said that you're taking Zomentum away if they don't do their stale account cleanup, though.
good idea, Andrew. Good idea.
I like it. I like it, Andrew.
And then the other thing, so we actually did a blog on the stale account cleanup too, that Michelle just put up in the chat. So people can grab that as well, and it talks about the importance of cleaning that up. So, but look, end of the day, like, it's our job to make sure you guys, coming back to Andy's point, right? It's our job to inform you guys and educate you. It's the reason we're doing this call. It's difficult to get your mind share though. Like, and I was an MSP. I know, because I sat in your seat. You've got 1,000 things going on. You're running a business. You're putting out fires every single day. But one of the things that we need to figure out is when we have all this great functionality in the product, how do we get your mind share? Like, how do we get you guys to know all the great stuff that we give you access to?
Well, and Jim, it's a great question. I'd love everybody's thoughts, but I think Andy kind of hit on it. He's raising his hand, but I'm just speak and Andy validate or invalidate. Like, as he said, we're running a business. Like, Jim, I think if we can provide them, like, hey, we created this stale account cleanup. How do I potentially monetize it, or how does it open a conversation with a prospect or customer?
Mm-hmm.
Ideally, prospects more than anything, and enablement. But Andy, what were you gonna share?
So here's what I just logged into my Zomentum. I went through their training process and I did not see SaaS Alerts content available to me in my Zomentum. You're paying for it, and I just looked again, I'm not seeing it there. So I looked at this and said, all right, I'm using this for my quoting potentially. And I said, that's great, but it doesn't do what I need it to do. And so I said, I'm going to use QuoteWorks. But you're saying there should be marketing collateral available to me in Zomentum, and I'm not seeing it.
Because we have a specific instance. We have a SaaS Alerts instance that you should end up. Did you get Zomentum through us, or did you buy it?
I did. No, I don't. I'm not paying for it. So I'm literally going through and saying, where is this in the portal? And I'm not seeing it. And I'm logged in. Perhaps I need some further training. Perhaps the training I got from Zomentum didn't include how that SaaS Alerts has their content here, and I need to see it.
Right. Okay. I'm taking it. I'm jotting down a note. I'll make sure that you get access to that. See where.
Does anyone else have it in their Zomentum? That's I'm just curious. Am I the only one?
I have in mind, though, not.
Yeah, we have it in ours, but you have to contact Zomentum and ask them to push it in there. They verify you with SaaS Alerts and bam.
Okay, so I'm getting it for free. SaaS Alerts is paying for it, but they won't put SaaS Alerts information in there unless I ask for it. That's what I just heard.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, we purchased it. We've had it far before SaaS Alerts. So when we got them, I knew it was included with some of the content, so we contacted them and they put it in. It's under other items, other proposal. I had to pull the program up, but it's there if you
All
ask.
right. All right. Well, then now I understand. So the answer to your question ultimately, I wasn't aware that there was a partner enablement part of Zumentum, and I would definitely be using that because we're literally trying to get all of our messaging ready for next year.
Right.
And so
Okay, cool. Well, another reason why we have these calls.
So
Chip,
let me, Jim, before we jump off this, Andy asked another question in there or made a statement. You know, can you guys give me something I can send to my customer that highlights, you know, the need for this? And the response I have to that, Andy, is, are you aware of, and I'm going to share my screen right here, just a second, if you'll all indulge me. Are you aware of this report, of the externally shared files report in the reports module that lays out exactly what's shared anonymously, what's shared to individual email addresses? And these are the ones that create those guest accounts, by the way. And do you send these, to your customers on a regular basis? So that's our intent as the product team, was to create this so that this could be a scheduled report that would go, let's say, monthly or quarterly to the end customer so that they can see, hey, here's what my knowledge workers in my business are doing with my data. And here's what's creating those guest accounts in the case where there's a specific email address. And here's where we have these anonymous shares out there that are just out wandering around. So, I'm asking you this to gauge how well we've done at communicating this.
okay, so yes, I get the vulnerability report. Yes, I share it with my customer. Our the message overall is that is too much information for them to process. They need to understand why. Why is this the big issue? And I haven't been doing an effective job at communicating that to my existing customers. I'm also interested in communicating why this report is valuable and why we should be allowed to run an assessment for prospects as well. So I'm trying to say that I am learning that my context in all my communications is not adequate. It is, I need to have a context that they relate to. Digital key, car, would you give your Tesla car key away to somebody else, right? However you want to look at it, I'm trying to get that messaging in a way that makes sense for today's person to relate and allow us to do the assessment. Or, hey, we need to change a workflow because it's inconvenient, but man, and if I can do this with a policy, either within SaaS Alerts or more specifically with Microsoft 365, then we can talk about, hey, we'll implement this policy for you. And they want it done for them without costing them more training and development time ultimately.
Right. And for you, Andy, you deal a lot with healthcare, right? If I recall.
Yep.
Yeah. So for you, it's like how that organization makes money, it's patient throughput. So hey, if your systems are down, what is that costing you in terms of hourly? If you're not pushing through X patients an hour because there was some compromise through this stale account.
Sure.
It's like that's what they can relate to versus just a list, if you will.
The challenge that I have is that I have to cry wolf, and I'm not saying I'm crying wolf. I'm saying these are all issues. I have to rank these in order of precedence and tackle them, right? And I have to continually raise cloud security, right? Because, hey, I'm at Microsoft, I should be secure, right? And continue that messaging. And I think it's more, it's not a story that I can say once or twice, but I have to say it every month. And that report is helpful, but I need to have the message relating to their context, not mine, right?
Yeah. Have you ever gone through the SaaS report? Andy,
Yeah, that's the one I get monthly, right?
No, that's
All
what
right,
newsletter.
no.
It's
Okay.
annual. And we take all of the data that we collect within the platform, we aggregate it, we anonymize it, and we basically put together trends. And one of the things that made me think about it is you just said, because I think this is pervasive thought, which is, hey, I'm in Microsoft, I'm safe, right? But the reality is that Microsoft gets attacked more than any other application. Right. And we see it and we documented it, and you can take that information in that report and show it to your customer.
I'm just curious, I'm the only one speaking. Is anyone else having this context or this process?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would love to know.
Yeah, I would too.
Andy, being the question of meaning speaking the customer's language.
Speaking, one, communicating to prospects and customers the urgency around having this stuff performed on a regular basis, and how they can consider responding to this that makes sense for their business.
Yeah.
And so I just perceive with the global economy changing that there's going to be more opportunities for those less good characters in the world to want to take resources because they're not able to make it so easily.
Yeah, I mean, the best, and maybe I'll get Brian Blakely on here. He's one of the best at having this conversation. So, for example, again, it comes in our terms, it's business impact analysis or assessment, depending on what term you want, right? But it's about risk, business operations, cost to the business, right? Being how they make money, and because if we're not having those conversations, we're not speaking their language.
So, just to weigh in here. I've worked with a lot of healthcare clients in a previous life, and the dirty, ugly secret with those guys that I worked with is they had paid to get their data back several times, and this is one organization. So the question I have for them is, when I give them security recommendations, it's, hey, these are the things that you need to fix, or do you want to go through the process of being ransomed again? That's kind of the decision that I would put forth to them when they were my clients.
It'd be really helpful is I noticed that you guys are starting to publish this stuff on YouTube. I would love to, because I'm making videos. I would love to do an interview with someone from SaaS Alerts and talk about, or a security guy, and say, why is this important? And then I have something that I can continually give both in text and video form that reinforces the same message.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You can interview any one of us.
Great. I think that unfortunately it's repetition and it has to come through multiple information sources.
Yes.
That's at least my experience.
I agree.
Andy, I just want to offer for a second that, it feels like we're all focusing on you and picking on you, but I want to offer maybe for everybody that this is a wide problem. We had a support call this week from a partner who's been with us for a year, who needed help in explaining to their customer why they were getting a file anonymously accessed from Mexico. And they kept asking us, what's wrong with SaaS Alerts that we keep seeing this from Mexico? We don't have any users in it. And we responded and said, because you have a file that's shared anonymously, and someone in Mexico has that link, and they're now using it. And this is a law firm. I don't want to get any more specific than that.
Yep.
But our partner was continually coming back with us for the first 3 days of this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, in our support portal, saying, I need more help explaining this to my customer. They can't understand. And I was at a loss, quite frankly, and our support team was like, what else can we tell you? You have your user who shared this file anonymously, maybe a year ago. Someone's accessing it from Mexico. We don't know who it is. Microsoft doesn't know who it is. All we're doing is telling you it's done. So, the action to take for that is to say to the customer, you need to get rid of that share. Go to find that file in SharePoint and terminate it so that they can't get to it anymore. So it's not just you, is the point I'm making, Andy. This is a widespread problem that the end user community simply assumes I'm using Microsoft 365 and therefore I don't need to worry about anything. It's a worry-free environment.
Does the SASE report also talk about here's what how most customers are vulnerable, and these are the top 10, and we could literally say this is why you want us to do this assessment? And I'm just trying to get this very succinct, because right now we just went through Cybersecurity Month. Some of us are beginning to talk about budgets with our customers and prospects. I think this is a perfect time to be messaging out things to consider for your budget next year, right?
Mm.
And cloud security has been neglected. You may have thought it was addressed by moving to the cloud, but here are some common misconfigurations, common vulnerabilities around your most company's cloud implementations. And you could do this by vertical. You could say law firms, CPAs, healthcare, you name it.
Yeah, it shows, for instance, like how, on a percentage basis, how many files are shared out of SharePoint and OneDrive that are anonymous? How many of them are actually sent outside the organization or shared internally?
With
Stuff
no
like that.
expiration dates. That's, I think, a real key there.
Yep.
Because GDAP is supposed to address our access, but if they share out stuff without an expiration date, they're
Right.
defeating that, you know?
Right, but you can actually set respond, right, to expire
those down.
those
Okay.
on a specific time period. Because we know that we can never count on them to do the right thing on a consistent.
So that comes back to the policy, right?
Right.
That comes back to the policy that we can do with SaaS alerts that they are not able to enforce themselves. And
Right.
there's a selling point right there.
Yep. Exactly.
Jim, can we just take a quick pause before we move on? Patrick way back asked, where do I find account cleanup, the account cleanup function in the portal? And then maybe either Liron or Chip could show that real quick to make sure everybody knows where.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. I know Liron, addressed that in the comments, but we'll just grab it real
Sure.
quick. Hop over here. Okay, so when you select any of your customer organizations, it's in this account management section that you can manage for account cleanup. So, I'll select a Microsoft organization here. I'm going to look for anybody who didn't sign in 6 months ago. I'm actually going to not select any billing exceptions and just say list accounts. So this is going to give me a quick list of, in this case, the filter that I chose is accounts that have not signed on from greater than 6 months ago. So obviously these are accounts that have been banging around here forever that, frankly, we leave them in here because they're part of our testing, but you get the idea. And then this report is designed to be exported very easily into a PDF or a CSV, however you would want to present it, and sent to your customer to say, hey, let's review these together, or shall we just take care of this as your service provider and eliminate all of these? But anyway, you can find this just by going right to the organizations page and going to account management, and that will allow you to list the stale accounts. You have the option then of acting on these accounts right from this environment. You don't have to log into AD to manage them. You can block them, you can delete them, you can manage them the way you see fit best as the MSP right from this screen.
And as Harsh points out,
Patrick,
it's only for the MSP admin with MFA turned on. So
What you just did would be really helpful on your YouTube channel, just to put out new features and here's something that you can do. That also would be helpful, because that allows us to consume this and see it and then better understand value. And honestly say, here's how you can message this at the end. Right.
Yep.
The other thing, Andy, and to everybody, I'm just wondering, as I think through the end user and what Chip, you said, hey, this company in Mexico is accessing this file. Would it be helpful to maybe have a, very, 2-minute, 90-second YouTube on like carrying it through, Chip? Like customer A, here's what happened. They shared this file. 4 weeks later, we find that somebody's accessing it from Mexico. They access it. Here's how they gained access to and then escalated privileges within the, kind of carrying it through, and what the end result of the compromise, was. If all of these things take place, so that Andy could just send this 90-second thing to go, look, right now you have, your healthcare organization has 32 of these shared accounts. This is what can happen.
Even take that one step further, Andrew, and come up a level and say, I'm going to talk to a prospective customer and say, we find that 70% of cloud implementations of Microsoft 365 have no expiry shared file shares out there, or SharePoints, And this can be considered a security incident. I won't say breach at this point. And we can help you locate, address, and prevent them in the future.
Mhm. It's about
And what is
19%.
and what is the dollar cost to your organization if sensitive information gets out?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll
'cause
have to find a way to message it. It's a nuanced message, though. It's very easy for an end customer to say, it doesn't matter that they shared this anonymous file. It was a message about the company picnic. I could care less if anybody sees it. What we have a hard time as security professionals getting through to them, and I'd love to hear from anybody in the call who has succeeded in this differently, is, that isn't an innocent seeming file, but it's got the list of everybody's names and the name of the park where you're having your company picnic and da-da-da-da-da. That's how a phishing campaign, a spear phishing campaign starts. A year later, somebody who picked that anonymous file up purely randomly through God knows how else they got it, that's the guy that's going after key people in your organization with a spear phishing campaign, plugging in, getting malware in, leading to the ransomware attack at the healthcare company that Leron was talking about.
So
Charles, this could have been
really
to a vendor.
hard to get these abstract concepts across to people.
So Chip, let me just take that a step further. So here's what we do.
Yeah.
Chip, you say, hey, I don't, big deal. So what? Oh, big deal. Here's the names, here's the domains that you've just shared out. Here's what a threat actor does with something called OSINT, open source threat intelligence. They go here, they go on the dark web, they go find information on your company. Then they start a phishing campaign, a spear phishing campaign. They can find out already your credentials on the dark web. That's how easy it is to go from the picnic party into your organization.
And you could take this even one step further. Hey, I shared this with a trusted vendor and they get hacked. And now they've got access to your data, right? Because it's just a spider's web at that point.
Yep, exactly.
Andy, supply chain risk is a fad.
Yeah, it's not going anywhere. One of the things as we're having this conversation, and these conversations are always great, I'm thinking about some companies I've worked with in the past that have, end of the day, like we started out with a pretty simple concept here at SaaS Alerts and with one module. Now we've got 3 modules and a lot more functionality. And one of the things is that, people don't always know when we release new features and what is there and what isn't there and how to use it. One of the things I know has happened over the years as vendors have basically added functionality onto their platform is they create certifications, right? Like training certifications. So I would love to understand from folks, like if we created like a SaaS MSP certification, one on the technology side, and then and then another one on like the sales side, and the kind of stuff that you're getting to, like the why and how to position. Would people, obviously free, like we would put the program together, but would people want to take that? Is it meaningful? The man of the hour, Andy's.
Well, I'm trying to make sure other people have an opportunity, but I believe it doesn't mean anything to me. We need to have that mean something to the customer. Why is this relevant if you've been certified in SaaS Alerts? What does it really mean to them? It means that we are focusing on cloud security for our customers.
Mm-hmm.
And is your MSP doing the same? In other words, something that says, hey, this is a reason why you need to pay attention to this, because compliance and security for Microsoft products is the issue. Microsoft is changing it so that they're more secure. How is your company adapting that kind of messaging in some way?
Right. Like I remember when I was the CEO at Thrive, we had at the time, I don't know, 65 people, and we went on a kick. Everyone remember iTail?
Mm-hmm. Pink Elephant, Jim?
Yes, exactly. Pink Elephant. Yep. So we went on a kick where we got a lot of the people within inside the organization certified. And one of the things I would say on sales calls is, you know what, we actually have more ITIL certified employees at Thrive than most MSPs have employees. So, but is that the type of thing that actually people are looking for? Do they want to be essentially SASE certified? And can we make that something that is meaningful to your customers?
I guess, Jim, my pessimism, and many of our vendors have these certifications. I can go through the training material today, and as you just talked about, you are going to get certified on the first module, and then you come out with 2 other ones. What's that going to do for me other than force me? I don't want to force is the wrong word. Encourage me to watch a couple of the training videos, but as soon as we're done and new features come out, that doesn't mean I'm keeping up with the changes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it doesn't. So you have to kind of keep going. It does give you a baseline, right? Which makes it easier for you to adapt and pick up the new stuff that does come out. And I would say it also, from a benefit perspective, right? Like you're now, I suspect based on the conversations I have with partners, like people are using probably 25 to 30% of the functionality within our product today.
Probably.
Like, I think it's beneficial for both of us, right? For you guys to be using 80 to 100%, because you're able to provide a better solution to your customer that you can then understand, and then they understand the value that you're bringing them because you've maximized this specific platform.
So I think part of that has to do with going back to Andy's comment about messaging. When and if we have a conversation about public links, for example, and we can get them to buy in, then the problem is this follow through of, I just ran the report on my company and we've got 88 files. And somebody has to literally go one at a time and figure out what and why, and that takes time. How do I get paid to do that? And so you've got to find a way to figure out, now that you've got the information, what are you going to, it's like running a vulnerability report on somebody's network. You're going to come back with 300 pages of missed patches and CVEs that aren't addressed. But now you have to find the time to do it and figure out how you're going to get paid to do that.
And so that comes back to Gary laying out the budget and plan for the next year, right?
Yeah.
And so how do we, and this is the real issue, we have got this down for a premise-based environment. These are the rules. The rules are still being defined in Microsoft 365, and it's evolving. And how do we connect the horror story? It's a HHS wall of shame if it's a HIPAA violation. It's the pipeline situation if a password is a user account's left open. How do we connect what this means to an actual circumstance or cause that could impact their company, and now it becomes important? It's again that similarity of the digit code or the key to the lock type of thing.
Right. Yeah.
We have to say that this really does happen. This is what it's costing.
Yeah. Yeah. It keeps coming back to really like enablement stuff, and I hate to use the term dumb it down, but dumb it down make it really, really simple for the end user customer to understand, and then back it up with data, right? That makes it easy for you guys to articulate to them.
So Andy, to address that question, and I'm asking this of everyone, I think the main purpose of this call for me and for Liron, the product team on the SaaS Alerts side, is really to check our assumptions about what we've built, get feedback from you guys on that, and that help us guide our vision moving forward, right? So we assumed when we built the external file share report that would work as follows. Our MSPs would share that with their end customers, and senior management at the end customer is going to review that report, and they're going to begin seeing on their files that have been shared, file names that raise their awareness, and they say, wait a minute, what is going on here? Like, why is this happening? And that engages them and brings them in as the partner in their own security. And this is partly to Gary's comment, how do I get paid for it? You know, part of the way that you get paid for it is you don't do any work. You're saying to your customer, hey, now that you have the information, Mr. Customer, go in and fix this on your own. You don't need me, you know, as an MSP to go in and unshare a file. So all that is not a statement. It's literally a question. Did we not think about this correctly in terms of the relationship between the MSP and its customer and the customer's interest in their own security?
Yeah, I want to ask a technical question about it, because I just literally pulled up the first one in my link. I think I see part of what we're doing here. Like when we want to give somebody a link to a file, say, here's the file that you need to work with or edit. In this case, it happens to be a picture of somebody's rack that somebody was sharing on behalf of a project. It's actually not an external thing, but we're using the little link in the upper right-hand corner of a document that says share with your team, saying, oh, here's a quick link to get to the file. It appears it's creating one of those external links. So it's not even shared with anybody external, they're internal members. Are we doing this wrong? Or is it like, am I looking at this the wrong way?
You are doing this wrong. Microsoft creates that as an anonymous link. And if that file, if that link gets shared internally outside the organization, accidentally or anything else, anybody in the world can get at it.
So now we've got a training program that could be evolved into, but one of the things I think that would help me communicate more effectively to our customers is to be able to put
What happened, Andy?
Well, we lost your audio.
We lost your audio, Andy.
Nothing.
So while I'm waiting for him to fix this problem, so I guess my question though is when you talk about value, what I think would be huge is here's a problem we're seeing out in the wild. Here's some suggested ways or alternate methods of doing the same thing. Because if you just said that's the wrong way to do it, I'm a technician. I don't know any better, honestly, because I wasn't aware that wasn't just sending an internal link. Because most of these things, I do this all the time with my team. Hey, go look at this spreadsheet. I don't want to attach it as a document to my email because that's horrible. So I'm sending them a link through the Microsoft platform, never realizing it was doing something evil. How do we do it better? That's the value that you guys can bring to the table, which is, what Andy's asking for, which is education and awareness that we can bring back to both our team and our clients.
So can you hear me now?
Yes, softly, but yes.
All right, sorry, I'll speak more loudly.
Yeah.
The question I was trying to get at, can we add roles inside SaaS Alerts for a company so that when we generate these reports, we could say, hey, your CFO is sharing incorrectly, and here's the proper way to share them. Here's the ramifications of this, and here's what it costs if that gets incorrect. Or here's your production team sharing their schedule, right, incorrectly. And we can then relate these back to, again, the CEO or whoever's going to be in charge of security isn't going to understand the detail. They need to understand that they're not sharing it the right way. And there's a training aspect of this that has value, and that goes into data security awareness training and kind of drives that whole piece. Is that making sense? We need to have this be consumable at a higher level with less detail so that then they know they're doing it incorrectly, here's the right way to do it, and here's how we can help.
Yeah. Chip, what are your thoughts on that?
I'm actually a little unclear about how creating roles in SaaS Alerts is going to help manage their actual behavior in Office 365.
Right, so
I'm not connecting the dots there, Andy.
What I'm trying to do is say, these are the key functional roles in your organization. These files or this report would then allow me to group the shares by functional role. And I'd be able to say, hey, the accounting department is sharing information incorrectly. It has a direct cause and effect. The production team is sharing file. I need to bring this to a level instead of individual, talk about it at a department or workflow standpoint.
So you're going to have a discussion with your partner where you say, okay, you've got your 50 employees. Let's put them into buckets, and track their behavior by those buckets.
No, I'm going to take the report that says you've got incorrectly shared files by the bucket, and this has can have a direct effect on your security because of the information that's in this. And then we have to work on that messaging to connect it back up. Are you saying that it doesn't seem to make sense? Because what we're having to do then is take your detail report, massage it away. It's kind of like red light, green light, yellow light, right? We're trying to get it to that level.
Well, could we maybe bring Ben on? Because Ben's like, hey, this is why I love this report. Can Ben chime in just for a minute?
Yeah.
Ben, you with us?
Just
still?
trying to. Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you did a great
Okay.
job. I think you've shared this before, but I really love the way you present this.
I was just noting about if you guys, we're talking about dumbing it down for some of your customers. Was just the way that I've been using it was just like the MFA report, with having that map out there that just makes things very, very clear of these are the people that are attacking your accounts. And this is why you need us to be monitoring these things. A lot of our issues around here is that small town mentality of company thinks they're too small to be hacked, and what we have to tell them is, you have customers, you have friends, you have family. How would you feel if one of these hackers did get in and sent those friends and family ransomware? That usually will click with them. But you're right, if you start going technical with them, you're going to lose them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no doubt.
But another thing, I posted a couple links. I posted a link in the chat. What we've really tried to start pushing with our customers is setting up policies in SharePoint to actually restrict those files from being indefinitely shared. We've seen a couple of reports come through from SaaS, when we try to do our quarterly meetings, we're showing them externally shared files with anonymously shared, no expiration date, from medical industries, and the patient's name is in the file. So we're like, we can kind of guess what's in this PDF. And so, we're encouraging them that it's not secure just because it just has a random file path.
Yeah, but I guess, Ben, like I looked at the link and I messaged back, I think setting up the fact that you're setting up the system and policies to automatically expire them. I don't like the fact that they can extend it, but if there's a better way of doing it that doesn't expose these holes, that's what we should be going after. But yes, and by the way, yes, you still have to check up and have the policy to make sure if they do it the wrong way, there's a backstop.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like SaaS Alerts Respond can help us do this.
Yeah. I mean, it's a rules engine, so.
Yeah.
Okay. This is, super helpful. I've been taking down a bunch of notes here, so a lot to tackle.
Jim, we dealt with this. So the end, look, at the end of the day, this is about, in every go-to-market I've seen, is helping your customers, the SaaS Alerts customers, with enablement to communicate to the end customer. Because obviously, if we can help them sell, it means obviously better things for you. Right. So I think that's really the big, takeaway that I get out of this, and and that's one of the things I certainly will work on with you and Michelle and obviously the group here. Yeah.
Speaking of Michelle, can you? I'm just curious to know what that the poll said.
We only had about half participation, but
okay. So
that's better than I usually get on the cyber call, Michelle. We have literally 400 people on and 50 answer it. If we're lucky.
Well,
that
88%, is a pretty big number for I don't have time, and it's not an issue.
Right.
Well, it sounds like to me that there's an education issue there.
Right.
helping your user base get a better understanding of it. And I was one of the ones who answered, I don't have enough time. I've got enough, so many initiatives that we're chasing. At some point, if we think it's a big enough problem, we percolate it to the top of the stack.
Can I pose something to you, Gary?
Sure.
What if, like, I don't know, would it be egregious for SaaS Alerts to go, I'm not saying to do this, but I'm just role playing with you.
Mhm.
SaaS Alerts goes, you get a message. Hey, Gary, there's 482 stale accounts, right, that have not been logged into in the past 30 days in your account. We are going to delete those in 5 days if we don't hear back from you. I'm just saying, so now all of a sudden, as a service,
Yep.
they go, hey, we know you're busy. We're going to come in and clean them out.
Yeah, it would certainly get somebody to respond to them.
Overall, go ahead, sorry.
No, go.
I was going to say, this all ties into an overall management thing. And I was on a call yesterday with Kaseya, and we're talking about the future things of things. And this comes to play into an overall assessment report that should rank, in my view, the vulnerabilities and the potential cost liability. I think that's something that Rapid Fire Tools did reasonably well, is that they would assess vulnerability costs. And if we had a way to monetize the risk for them, it would then be self-evident how to proceed.
Right. Got it. I agree with you. And by the way, so first of all, Dave, thanks for using the sale user account functionality. You're right, that was not an option on our poll. But when I look at the results, it's like I don't have time and there's no easy way to do it. That accounts for 63%. And ultimately, that's what we've tried to do, right? It's give you an easy way to do it that doesn't require a lot of time, because we know you don't have time. So
are you guys going to be adding this as a functional thing as far as respond, the way the respond module works? Because I wouldn't mind having a rule that just said, after 30 days or 60 days, just lock these logins, after 90 days, delete them.
Yeah, Ben, good question. That is actually the next version of respond, is it'll give you account-based respond rules.
Yeah, but Ben is asking about the shares, I think, isn't he, Ben?
No.
Oh, just the guest accounts, honestly.
Oh, the guest accounts. Okay, yeah.
I think
Shares
actually
might not be really bad too.
that would be a good thing. Yeah, to be able to say,
for
hey,
real.
these are the shares that have been deprecated. Good way to say it.
Yeah. So Jim had alluded to that earlier, and Leader and I were just discussing in the background. Wait a minute, that's not on the roadmap yet. But you're right. It's an interesting idea to allow a respond rule to be set up to block any share, whether anonymous or not, after a certain amount of time. I don't know, Andy, if we can do that or not via the APIs that we have access to, but it's something that we can look into.
And one last thing, give us a best practices format with the SASE report that says, by the way, here are the best practices that would be very valuable for any organization. And here's how, because I think we're discovering those things that are not best practiced at the moment.
Chip, it's almost like this may not.
Andrew, I'm sorry. I actually have to run to 2 o'clock. You guys can keep going. Folks, thanks so much. Really appreciate the time as always, and see you next week.
See you, Jim.
Jim, I'll be there in a second, but I want to answer Andrew's question.
Yeah, Jim. So Chippy, I was just going to ask to you and the group real quick. It's not a perfect analogy, but if you're like, let's just say you're a SOC SIM provider, you're Blackpoint as an example. Pull any of them out there, Blackpoint's ever. And you have a customer and you all of a sudden see a vulnerability, in essence, what you think is a vulnerability test, or potentially, right? It could be a potential threat. Like you don't know, for example, you don't know that it's a vulnerability scan. Let's just put it that way, right? Well, they call you up and go, hey, we're shutting this down unless you tell us otherwise, right? Or we just see this TeamViewer account come online. We're shutting it down unless you tell us otherwise. Could SaaS Alerts, again, I'm just kind of thinking the other way. Look, we're going to put these policies in place unless you tell us otherwise. At the end of, again, X days, we're deleting these.
I mean, I think you're asking, could we build the logic around both accounts and files, you know, stale accounts, guest accounts and files, so that they would automatically be tracked and handled that way via the respond module? Yeah, we already have a challenge and response mode, what we call manual approval in the respond module, that would allow someone to get a notification that says, okay, these files have been out there for 30 days and you've got another, 5 days to respond, or the shares are going to be eliminated. We wouldn't want to delete files, for sure. That would be going way too far, but if we can manage those share permissions with the API, it's something that we could look at for 2023 roadmap.
Yeah, what I'd love to see is like on a, I'll say a per client basis, when I get my client to buy in, an opt-in to automatic management and monitoring of those shares with whatever the thresholds that we set up in Respond.
Or Gary, you don't make it even optional. Like in our MSP, we are not going to, it is not optional. We will be doing this because we know the threat that exists if this and this happen, type of thing.
So, I'm out of time as well, but I'll just comment that last week we looked real quickly at a mock-up of what we're calling the beginning of interactive reporting. And one of the things that we'll be building in interactive reporting, aside from that security score, is, hey, here's all these policy settings that contribute to the security profile of any individual tenant. And here's how you can modify those to improve them. Well, this whole sharing section is a pretty big chunk of the best practices notion of how you should be managing the Microsoft SharePoint universe and OneDrive universe. And, that is already on our roadmap for building that interactive reporting so that you can set these policies. And the best way to handle this is to prevent end customers and users from engaging in this kind of risky behavior to begin with via policy. And this is, I think, a point Ben was making with one of the articles that he sent along. He put a link in here for us that reviews, how you use policy to limit this kind of sharing and sharing.
But
by the way, go ahead.
I'd say, doesn't this problem go away if we just don't use the anonymous links and you link with share to a specific user?
Yes.
So isn't that the
handles
answer?
The anonymous side of it.
What's
it
that?
doesn't handle the guest user, but it handles the anonymous side of it. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, no. Hey, listen, I share files with outside users, but they're specifically named. And I haven't checked them, but my gut tells me the anonymous links in our case are internal users because we're using the lazy way of doing it. And the auto expiring links is a great idea. Just say, you can share it, whether it's 7 days or 30 days, I don't care. And if that solves most of this problem, then that's an easy solution.
I had a thought
Guys,
around. All right, I had a question for you guys, and that is Microsoft's changed the contract and said, "Hey, look, you could potentially be sued by us or by another partner." Has there ever been a cost, or has there been an exposure that this actually took place? Because that might have an impact as why this is more important. Not only are you at risk for taking losing information and getting, but you could be sued by Microsoft as it impacts another one of their customers.
Interesting. Don't know.
So that was the question.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's a great question.
So at any rate, thanks for your time, guys. I really do get a lot out of this, and it helps me better frame how I could better message. And that's really why I'm here.
Yeah. Andy, by the way, I can ask on the cyber call Monday, we have Mackenzie Brown, who's from Microsoft Dart. I'll try and ask her their detection response, team.
Thanks.
So,
all right.
Yeah.
Is there a call next week, given that some number of people are down at in Orlando?
Oh, right, Michelle. So like with IT Nation Thursday, what are your thoughts?
Well, Jim will be there. You will be there, I'm assuming. Chip will be here.
I mean, I could jump on.
Folks, yeah, if the majority of folks are gonna be down there, then, but you know, we can always have someone available. If you have any questions, if not somebody jump on, I'm sure.
Whatever, and obviously you guys can send out a notice. But the other question I had, I want to, maybe I don't know if I should just send this to support. I've got a question about the respond technicality of, you know, some of the conditions that you guys talked about and reviewed, in the sense that, you know, we have that a sample rule of, like, for logins, a successful login after failed login attempts. And it's not clear in the display that they are sequential conditions. You know, one would read it and make the assumption, but I don't know if it's definitely, because one of the other things that somebody asked about was, what about doing like a local failed login and followed by a successful login from out of the country, for example, within a certain time frame. Meaning, you know, I may have screwed up my login trying to get into our local computer, and is that coincidental with a foreign person trying to log into my account? And that might want to trigger something. Should I just send that into support, or how do I get something like that clarified?
Yeah, Gary, I would send that into support.
Okay. I'll figure out how to try to write that up a little bit more clearly. Awesome. Then we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing you, man.
You got it. Safe
I'm gonna
travels
send you-
for everyone.
Yeah,
For everyone
I'm
that's
gonna
going.
yeah, you too. Take care, everybody. Gary, I'm gonna send you a quick email, okay, bud?
Got it.
All right, see you guys.
Thanks, everyone.